Hi, everyone. Welcome. It's great to be here with everyone today. I'm excited for this breakout session. My name's Xavier Ramey. I've been moderating this event today, and I'm happy to facilitate this breakout session. This one's going to be really, really awesome. We're going to be looking into the question of the future of technology, specifically for Black businesses. And we've got some really awesome folks. I'm going to leave it to them to introduce themselves. We've got Kevin Cohee, who's the chairman and CEO of OneUnited Bank, Walter Diaz, who is the project leader at BCG, and Jay Mukhey, the global director of corporate social responsibility at Finastra. So I'd like to give them a second to introduce themselves. Gents, if you'd like to.
Hello, my name is Kevin Cohee. I'm the chairman and CEO of OneUnited Bank, the largest Black-owned bank in America.
I'll go next, I suppose. My name is Jay Mukhey. I work for Finastra. We're a global fintech company. We produce software for banks of all sizes across retail banking, corporate banking, treasury, capital investment markets.
Walter Diaz, I'm a project leader at BCG, Boston Consulting Group, primarily focused on digital transformations and ecosystems, and more recently on a lot of our racial equity initiatives across the company.
Awesome. One of the things I just want to say to everybody, a bit around housekeeping. We'll have about 30 minutes for this session. If you're able to, you can choose to hide non-video participants, and you can just go down to the lower left side of your screen. You'll see the video icon. If you hover along the bottom, just click that little arrow and the 3 dots that says hide non-video participants. We do have a Q&A function set up. So on the bottom of your screen, also, if you hover, you'll see the Q&A button. If you have questions as we're going along, feel free to write them into the Q&A section. Kalina from BBIF is going to be monitoring that and supporting me on bringing your questions out to the front. We're going to have about 20 minutes where I'll just be going back and forth with the folks here on the panel. And then we'll have another 10 minutes for any of your general questions about this point around the intersection of tech, access, equity, and Black businesses. So that said, this is a really important issue. And no matter where you work or what the purpose of your work is, tech is a very large part of building a modern company. Yet we find that there's a lot of people of color who are caught up in what we call the digital divide, and whether that be about access or preparation or networks or otherwise, the data just shows that especially Black-owned businesses are not able to access the types of resources they need as it relates to technology, or they may not be aware of it to sustainably grow their company. And it's added a complexity to how we should be understanding those pathways, the opportunities, and the barriers that especially Black small businesses face. So guys, and feel free to hop in if you have whoever wants to go first. So let's set the stage a bit around the macroeconomic issues. What are some of the macro and socioeconomic issues and factors that we need to sort of baseline in order to understand the opportunities and challenges that Black businesses face as it relates to tech?
Well, I believe that you know, if you guys don't mind me jumping in, I believe that this is the best time that's ever existed to start and develop a business, whether you're Black or not. And that's because of technology and the opportunities that technology offers. Technology doesn't care if you make the product or not. It doesn't care who you know. It just cares that you know how to use it to target people who need your specific services. So there's never been a better opportunity to get rich, to make a lot of money. And so I believe that we're going to see a huge wave of new business development as people come to understand the opportunity that technology offers.
And just to pick up on that, Kevin. So I like to look at this through the what I call the DEI framework, right, which is the diversity, equity, and inclusion framework. And if we focus on as it pertains to tech, and more importantly, the data that is feeding the technology to computations and decisions that it does on behalf of business. But if we start with diversity is just all the data, right? So what do we know? We know that 30%, 30.4% of the US population is African American, right? But if you look at any metric in the US, you can see that community is underserved, right? You look at the populations of students in college, you look at unemployment rates, you look at people in prison, you look at any social metric, right? And it's clear that there is lots of work that needs to be done. So that gives us the challenge, right? The equity piece is, how do we provide the access and opportunity to the people that need it most? And when I say access, I mean education. So what do I need to know to run a successful business? The tech is huge, right? But how can I invest in tech? How do I get access to the capital to invest in tech? How can I develop relationships with banks, right? And where do I operate? So if you're in an underserved community, the likelihood is, you don't have access to the financial services, the likes of Bank of America and Wells Fargo provide. You're looking at a small institution, right? And you've got fantastic ones like BBIF, who operate out of Florida, who are doing great work in the community to provide capital. But these are some of the considerations. And then you've got things like talent, right? So how can I get access to talent? And then the last piece is inclusion, right? And I think that's so important for this conversation. And Xavier, you touched on it in your opening. But if I haven't been to college, if I don't have that network, if I don't have access to those coaches and those mentors who are going to help me, manage my business in a very efficient way and make it a viable business for it to grow and invest in, how am I going to be successful and have longevity in my business, right? So I think these are some of the key issues at a macro level that we need to think about. And certainly the equity piece is probably the most important as it pertains to Black business.
And I think the last point I'd add is building on kind of both of those points, which is, as you mentioned, the digital divide, it starts a lot earlier in people's lives, right? It's back in high school, it's before high school, it's in middle school. The digital divide there that's exacerbated by COVID, which has made remote learning even more difficult, is challenging. There's also the STEM through college and through other things to get you prepared for all of this prior to when you even start your own business or scaling your own business. And then focusing more on the opportunity side, the unlocks that you can get through technology are so valuable. As Jay and Kevin mentioned, the data that you have to understand your customers, to find and develop better product market fit, to also layer in some of the connectivity of understanding your competitors in the space is phenomenal for just getting off the ground and then also scaling your business. And I think if you wrap that around with some of the larger commitments by corporates in the market over the last year, we've seen $80+ billion being thrown out there and offered as commitments. There's a huge opportunity to start pairing this together to really come to meaningful solutions that address some of the systemic disparities you've seen.
Thanks, y'all. There's one of the things that's challenging about starting a small business, and I'm just saying this because over the last 3 years, I've been an entrepreneur and building a team and growing a company. One of the big challenges that I know that a lot of my peers who are also entrepreneurs face is you just don't know what you don't know. It's the unknown as it relates to tech. When I first got into it, I was sending Microsoft Word document proposals and did not know about software opportunities like Quiller, didn't know about the invoicing opportunities with QuickBooks, these sorts of things. Now I've got a degree in economics. I've worked in community and economic development work for years and years and years, but when you take the reins, it is a bit different. And it sort of couches the importance of why organizations like BBIF are important. But when you all engage with entrepreneurs, or when you all engage with the data about them, specifically at this intersection of race and tech and business, what are some of the gaps that you're seeing in what their unknown unknowns are? And Kevin, I know you were talking about this is the best time to start a business. What are people missing? What don't they see that you can see?
Well, what I see is TikTok, the gram, Twitter, and I see people with little or no education who are experts at using that technology. And that technology, all the things that one could know. I have a Harvard MBA, but so what? Technology doesn't care about that. The internet doesn't care about that. TikTok doesn't care about that. So what I see is that the skill sets that are needed, one, are readily available on the internet itself. And that there are tools, just like you mentioned, at this very important point, there are things that one can read to become educated about how to sell products and services on the web that don't require education. It doesn't require years and tens of thousands of dollars to be able to do. And the people, and there's so many people that are already expert at using this because it's part of their social life. So the tools to be successful are more accessible than ever. This is about simplification, that and a lot and getting people to understand that the challenges that we have been accustomed to in the world that we've grown up with have changed. The world's changed. It's over. It's a wrap. It's a new day. Okay. TikTok rules, the gram rules, Twitter rules. Okay. And if you know how to use those things, and you can take it, and here again, you can readily become educated. Xavier, you just talked about how despite the fact you have this master's degree, you educated yourself on business techniques, reading the web. You probably didn't cost you anything to learn how to use these critical technologies that helped you build your business. That's democratization. Technology is democratizing our world in a way that it's never existed before. Class is coming down. It's like that stuff's over. That stuff we value, that stuff we spent all our time, all our time on. That's not it. Now a 12-year-old kid can come up with an idea for a fancy looking lollipop and be richer than all of us inside a couple of months because it caught on and some celebrity's kid picked it up. And now it's the hottest thing, and they're selling these lollipops that they're buying for pennies for dollars. So I think that it's time for us to recognize that, you have the tools, most people have the tools necessary to be successful already. Most people already have some idea, they have some knowledge of some unique niche that nobody else knows about. It could be a hair care product. It could be a piece of glasses. I saw these people started this company, this eyeglass company, and are killing it. They don't make these eyeglasses. They're just marketing the eyeglasses. So that's the phenomenon we face with. That's the opportunity we're faced with. And so and it's going to happen. It's going to happen. We're going to be in an unprecedented time of economic prosperity, fueled by the rebound from the pandemic and the opportunities that are offered by technology.
Yeah, it's an excellent point, Ken, especially as you think about the cost of marketing and advertising and your ability to reach a consumer, like that in an instant on a platform that they know and love, right? 100% agree with you there. But just to give it a different perspective, Xavier, technology is an enabler for scale for many, many reasons, right? So, if you think about, I'll give you the example of BBIF and the work we're doing with them. We gave them a piece of technology to process paycheck protection, the PPP loans that came through. Now, what that did was alleviate a load of human capital that was dedicated to manual input applications from people, from businesses in their community, to saying, yeah, I'll let the tech do that. And I can now go and find more people who need these PPP loans, right? I can go and offer these to more of my existing customers. I can spend my time, thinking about new revenue opportunities like Kevin was talking about, right? So technology, from that perspective, is a massive enabler to scale, right? And alleviate human capital and use your talent for other revenue generating opportunities. The second piece is, from our perspective, we're looking at how do we make that technology accessible and the right technology, right? So, you know, a lot of time you say, I need to solve this problem in my business, but what is the right technology, right? So going through a procurement process, you know, evaluating multiple vendors, choosing the best one that fits your needs from both a financial perspective, but also from a functional perspective. You know, these are, you know, in a large corporate like Finastra, something we go through, we've got a separate department that handles that. But in a small business, you need to have the right mindset and the right people managing those processes, or you're going to end up with tech that doesn't serve you.
Yeah, and I think, oh, go ahead, Xavier, if you want to jump in.
I'm going to throw a little bit of a faster ball out there and refine this question a bit. So this, you know, Kevin, a lot of the companies you named that quickly scale, they're big companies. Those are white-owned companies. And this question around, even if you're a tech company looking to scale, there's still a challenge, right? Facebook wasn't the only social media application. I mean, I remember Black Planet. You know, there are competitors out there to the companies we see. Salesforce was not the only Salesforce. Instagram was not the only one competing in that space. There are oftentimes people of color, especially Black people, who see the wave, grab their board, and try to ride. And they quickly grow their ability to, as you said, Kevin, right, learning very quickly about the applications and the processes and the networks they need to be a part of to compete, but they don't get to that point. We look at companies like Clubhouse, which was just valued at $1 billion. Back in the 90s, I remember, you know, the party line existed, which is literally just this. It's just Clubhouse. But this question around, is it an access issue? Because it can't simply be that Black people are not creating businesses. We all know they are. However, the ability to scale and grow, particularly in the tech field, which is ripe for access, for creating millionaires in the modern day, we're not seeing those returns. What do you all see as some of the choke points around the ability to scale if the opportunity is there and the inertia and the will is there and they actually have a company?
Yeah, but the question is the last 2 points you made true? We believe that you said it from the beginning. It's about inspiration and motivation to learn about what tools are available to help you be successful. We all need coaches in life. As you pointed out from the outset, that when it can be mystifying using big words like even technology, as opposed to talking in terms of TikTok, and you've seen these people marketing on TikTok. You've seen those ads on TikTok. Yeah, man. Well, do you realize those people are making money? If you know a product, you can do it. So what needs to take place, and this is why, you know, OneUnited Bank is sponsoring this one transaction campaign and virtual video conference on Juneteenth Day. It's designed for this exact purpose on a nationwide basis to take financial concepts that I will agree that people, finance professionals and educated people use all the time, but the language is not understandable. It's not plain enough. So there's 2 things here. There's the lack of utilization of plain language to explain financial concepts, including things like how to develop a business and use technology. There's this old country saying, you gotta put it where the goats can get it. And what they meant by that goes back to the grandfathers. See that, you know, you come in talking all fancy to me, using your big words. I'm not gonna know what you're talking about. Can you use some of that smartness that you have to explain things to me in a way that I can understand? Can you break this down so that there's only 6 transactions you need to know how to do to build your net worth. They're easily understandable. You don't have to be a PhD to understand the transactions you need to do to build your net worth, but you do need somebody to take the time to explain transactions to you without trying to sell you something. And moving outside that paradigm, that sales paradigm, being able to have discussions in plain language, and then inspiring and motivating first the individual, then the whole community. You see, that's here again, one of the other opportunities the internet has given us is it's certainly organized Black American and its allies. So you have this massive group of people that for the first time are actually organized. That's what the internet did. And so what that does is it creates this huge opportunity to communicate messages in the group. That's what your leaders are supposed to be doing. Recognizing you have this organization, understanding how to communicate with that organization, then giving that organization the information it needs to be successful. And that's what OneUnited Bank is trying to do, and it should do. It's the largest Black-owned bank in America. It should be playing a leadership role in issues around financial literacy. And then the goal is to use these tools like constant messaging, constant texts, constant emails that are funny and enlightening, things that are easily shareable. So what you then do is you create a whole new core value system. What we want is Black people talking about, hey man, what kind of insurance do you have? How much did you pay for that? What stocks do you own? Instead of just talking about who's the best basketball team or the best basketball player or who has the latest dance, why not, if we can get the conversation centered on things like, do you have a will? What if something happens to you? And so you can change a whole community's value system now. Like that was very difficult before, but the internet and technology allows for you to have that kind of community where you can literally change a value system of an entire group of people. You can educate an entire group of people. And there's never been a better time to do it. Like, we got to get it now. And we will. It's going to happen.
You can already see your device.
Yeah. One thing I'd go back to like some of the original question around how technology plays a role in here. I think about some of my days from Amazon and startup building technology, right? It's start with where your vision is 5 years out. Where do you want to be? What customers do you want to target? What scale you're trying to get? Then decompose that back to your roadmap of how you want to get there. Keep it as simple as possible, right? It demystifies some of the technology, right? As Jay said, as Kevin mentioned, technology is an enabler. It's not the end result, it's the means to an end result. And the end result is better serving your customers and clients and keeping everybody happy in your partnerships. And that's a large part of why, you look at some of the challenges of focusing on technology. You don't need to learn and understand every single aspect of the technology or the platforms. You build lean, you build agile, you learn fast. Just build as much as you need to learn and grow from to move to the next step. And I think that's, when you think about VC funding writ large, that's where you end up with 1% of it goes to Black-owned firms. I think part of it is you tell the vision, you tell the opportunity, you tell the story that way. Technology enables you to get there faster, at scale, with better margins and leaner. And I think that's connecting some of that.
Walter, that was just like you just summarized a large part of the MBA right there in about 15 seconds. It was just excellent. Okay, I mean, really, see, and that's the language people need somebody to speak to them in. You have to have had a wealthy daddy or uncle or something to hear what Walter just said. I mean, that's a great example of breaking down financial information and technology in a way where you're like, hey, you don't have to know how to code. You don't even have to know what a code is. Okay? This is an enabling technology. And that's what we all have to offer. I'm actually going to get you guys in that virtual conference on Juneteenth Day. But I'm serious, actually. I'm literally serious about this, because this is creating a massive amount of people who can understand the stuff we're talking about now. Just in this conversation will propel economic growth in and of itself. You realize how the tens of thousands of people that would walk out of the room saying, man, nobody told me that I could do this. I mean, nobody explained to me that there's these applications that you can go to that will do a lot of the basic functions for you. Nobody told me that I didn't need to know how to code in order to use the internet to make money. Nobody told me I didn't have to be able to make the product in order to sell it. Nobody told me that I didn't have to have a ton of money before I could start my business. And that's what we're talking about, this group. So I'm totally serious about it. That's what we're doing on Juneteenth Day. We're trying to assemble vast amounts of people to hear the things that you're talking about at this very moment, because that's the opportunity.
So Kevin's jumped in on some of the things that his bank is working on. Walter or Jay, what are some specific opportunities or resources you're aware of that you would want to make public for people to understand, and how they can either leverage tech or how they can grow an actual tech-focused firm?
You want to go first, Walter?
What's that?
You want to go first? I mean, just the basic one that I'd go to, and then I'll circle back after you, is just Google. I taught myself how to code. I'm not great at it, but I learned by Googling and finding anything. That's how most people learn how to code. Is you don't go to a class or do this. You just start super scrappy. Is how do you make this button blue? Google that. How do you make this thing function this way? You Google it and usually find the resources. Now, when you talk about growing your business, you want a bit more depth than that. You also want it tailored and from a trusted source. Google, not so great for that. But there are communities and networks of people out here doing this stuff in this space who are those trusted advisors. It starts with your peers, but then there's a lot of other organizations who are very solid. This conference alone and what Kevin's doing with his organization, what Jay is doing with Finastra, there's a lot of people who are committing resources to doing this. I think it's just leveraging those and don't be afraid to ask. That's one of the biggest things. Sometimes growing up, I felt afraid to ask because I was worried I was going to look inadequate, or if I was in a meeting with somebody, if I asked a question, they wouldn't trust me that I knew how to grow my own business. There's nothing to do with that. Ask questions. Can't stress that enough.
And so Xavier, from my perspective, and I've got one eye on the Q&A, and so I'll try and answer your question and the one in the Q&A for those who can see it. The two things that we're focused on from a youth perspective, but also for, to the current toolkit for people looking to start businesses or already started businesses, like Walter said, is coding and a basic understanding of computer science, right? So I agree with Kevin, you don't need to be able to write in Python, JavaScript, or any of that kind of stuff, but understanding what code is, its applications, right? And the skills that it can give you in life, problem solving, thinking creatively, all of that good stuff. We partner with code.org, which is a charity mainly serving kids and teaching them coding from first principles, but it works for adults too. I taught myself how to code so I could teach kids how to code at Finastra through our volunteering program, right? That's the first thing, right? Computer science, regardless of career path, whether you go work in a corporate, whether you go work and start your own business, whether you go and, whatever you do in life, you want to be a taxi driver, a hairdresser, whatever it is, right? Tech is the next step, right? It's going to be the thing that helps everything scale. So people understand their expertise of their industry, and tech are the ones that are going to thrive, right, in the future. So that's why we focus on that from a CSR perspective with kids at Finastra. The second is financial services and systems, right? Kevin touched on it. Financial literacy, massively important, right? And there's so many, we go back to the macroeconomic challenges here in the UK where, we don't have as much systemic inequality, I would like to think, that there is in the US, right? The average Black business owner has access to £25,000 worth of capital a year. The average white business owner has access to £500,000 a year. Right? Why is that? Okay, because they understand how the financial system and services work, right? And it's not like rocket science. This is like, what is going to impact my credit score? What kind of accounting and finance reports do I need to deliver to the bank to secure the loan at a good rate? We did some analysis on the US market. Ethnic minorities, so Latinx, African Americans pay on average 1.4% more than a Caucasian person would, right? Why is that? It's not because, like all these historical reasons, and obviously they've played a part as to, as we got to this level of inequality. But, it's literally about understanding these financial services and systems, how things work. And, I'm really proud to say that Finastra is working with, many partners across the US to deliver financial literacy. And the free resource, so I mentioned code.org on the coding side, Money Smart. So anyone who wants to upskill themselves in terms of financial literacy, whether it's personal financial literacy or financial literacy for your business. Money Smart from the FDIC. You can just Google it, you'll find it. You get a course. We're actually looking to change the medium in which that content is delivered to make it more accessible and meaningful for people. The certifications and things that banks will accept as a way to boost people's credit scores. But these are publicly available resources that can put you on that first step towards your future goals and ambitions.
One quick thing I'd add before we jump over is, I think even on this call, some of the larger corporates that we've been talking about, the players in the space, there's an obligation that's almost enabled better by technology to better serve the communities we're trying to help. Is technology can connect the dots. We've been doing a bit of work with the Business Roundtable within BCG, with MLT around Black equity at work, and a lot of that's around leveraging technology to hold people accountable, but to also better connect and accelerate some of the support and networks of support that are out there in existence. So I think that's a necessary obligation that we have, as all these corporate commitments are out there, but there's also the aspect of connecting the dots so you're not alone in a particular space. So you don't get alone, you're actually given expertise and the talent, you're pushed over toward an organization that can support you there. It's connecting the pieces together, I think, is a critical part of this too.
I want to jump over with two sort of rapid fire questions. So if y'all, short responses, sort of top of mind, what you feel. First one is coming from one of the folks in the audience. So McKinsey released a report. It's called Race in the Workplace. And it highlights the fact that Black workers in America are highly concentrated in low growth industries and highly concentrated in areas with low job growth projections. So you all have talked about how this is a great time to start businesses, but we also know that access to financial, but also, as part of this conversation, intellectual capital is often very limited. So what do you believe is the greatest opportunity to address that digital divide, specifically as it relates to young folks, as well as looking at the current workforce in terms of retooling it?
Well, I believe that the key is making financial literacy a core value of Black Americans. And I think as you accomplish that goal, then this whole concept of each one teach one kicks in. There's so many of us. I mean, here again, I'm, the information that you guys are kicking out right now. Like, I mean, anybody having any exposure to you is going to grow. And so the idea is to try to infuse the entire community with this thought process, to recognize that it's not about where you are now, it's about where you're going. Don't worry so much. I heard this story just the other day about this guy who was a custodian at a hospital. And here again, I don't know the specifics of what he did, but he basically took the cleaning solution they were using, and it sounded to me like mixed it with some stuff that helped, that helped the process move along better. And then all of a sudden they were using that as the main product, for their janitorial services. I just, I say that story to, we live in this world that has constantly changing opportunity sets, and a big part of it is being aware of what's around you and understanding how to think about opportunities. Walter in his soliloquy, he started to set out a pattern for how you think about opportunity. And that kind of framework is what needs to be infused in our society. The internet, once again, allows for that to happen. It allows for values to be instilled, and for all of us collectively to father and mother the community. And so that's where I see the opportunity, is using technology to infuse value systems that teach you how to increase your net worth, and that inspire and motivate you. We got to use the technology. The technology is the solution. We need to use it to get the end result we want. That's our business problem. Think of it like that.
we've got to wrap. But Jay or Walter, any closing thoughts on this last question?
Yeah, I'll go quick fire. So I said computer science, get familiar with that. Financial literacy, service and systems, get yourself with that. If you've got those two things, the next thing is find yourself a mentor, right? There's no shame going and finding someone who you aspire to be like, who's already been there, got the t-shirt, and saying, look, will you give me some help? Will you give me some guidance? Will you give me some coaching? Will you be my mentor, right? 9 times out of 10, when I've asked that question, I've got a positive response. And I've learned something that has helped me to develop my personal career or whatever my goal was at that time. So get yourself a mentor. And if you can't find one, get in touch with me and I'll try and find you one.
Maybe one last quick thing is, on the flip side of every challenge is an opportunity to do something differently. And living a life of diversity and coming from a diverse background is a true strength. You see the world in a different way. And that's all about differentiating yourself, differentiating your product, differentiating your business. And that's what drives value. And that's what, when you think about really growing and scaling, technology can enable that, but it can also, that way of thinking is what will change these perspectives going forward and create real opportunity that turns a challenge into an opportunity to do it differently.
Awesome. Well, y'all, I'm really excited about this convo, and I want to thank y'all for your time. It reminded me a little bit, I saw one of my friends, Rendell Solomon's on, he always talks about in the Black community, we need to remember that we are going from sharecroppers to shareholders and moving in our work around equity and ownership. So thank you all for your time. Everybody who's an attendee, we got our second breakout session starting up in a bit. Feel free to take a break, grab some water, get some coffee, use the bathroom, whatever you got to do. But we'll see y'all back in the next session in 5. Thanks, everyone.